Did you know that the movie you love about Jack Skellington almost never happened? The idea lived inside someone's mind for more than 10 years before anyone believed it could work. Tim Burton dreamed of a skeleton king who wanted to steal Christmas, but no studio would touch it. They said it was too dark, too strange, too different. But the dream didn't die. It waited. It grew. And when the time was right, it became one of the most beautiful stop-motion films ever made. What you see on screen, those smooth movements, those perfect expressions, took years of patience, thousands of tiny adjustments, and artists who refused to give up. Let's dive in and discover 20 weird and amazing facts about The Nightmare Before Christmas. Number 20. The movie took 3 years to film. Most animated movies take time, but this one was different. The team had to move tiny puppets frame by frame, shot by shot, day after day. They worked in a dark warehouse filled with miniature sets. Each second of film required 24 separate photographs. That means every minute needed over 1,400 frames. The puppets were only inches tall, but they had to act like real people. Their faces had to show emotion. Their bodies had to move naturally. The animators used tweezers and tiny tools to adjust arms, legs, and heads. One wrong touch could ruin hours of work. Some scenes took weeks to finish. A character walking across a room might take 5 full days to capture. The crew worked in silence, moving carefully, breathing slowly. They couldn't bump the table or shake the set. Even a small vibration would show up on camera. The lights stayed on 24 hours a day because changing them would change the shadows. It was slow, exhausting, and beautiful. What looked like magic on screen was built from patience and precision. Number 19. Tim Burton didn't actually direct it. Everyone thinks Tim Burton directed this movie, but he didn't. Henry Selick was the real director. Burton came up with the original idea back in 1983 when he worked at Disney. He drew pictures and wrote poems about Jack Skellington and Halloween Town. But when the movie finally got made 10 years later, Burton was too busy directing other films. He was working on Batman Returns and couldn't be in 2 places at once. So Disney hired Henry Selick, who had experience with stop-motion animation. Selick spent 3 years bringing Burton's vision to life. He supervised the animators, planned the camera angles, and made sure every scene felt right. Burton stayed involved as a producer. He gave notes and approved designs, but Selick was on set every single day. For years, people didn't know this. The movie was marketed as Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas, and Selick's name got buried. He felt frustrated, but never bitter. He knew the story came from Burton's imagination. Still, the art of making it move, making it breathe, making it real, that was Selick's gift. 2. Artists, one dream, and history forgot to share the credit fairly. Number 18. Jack's face had over 400 expressions. Jack Skellington's face looked simple, just 2 black eyes and a stitched smile. But making him emote was incredibly hard. The animators couldn't just draw new expressions like in traditional cartoons. They needed physical pieces that could be swapped out between frames. So the team sculpted over 400 different face plates for Jack. Each one showed a slightly different emotion: surprised, sad, angry, confused, thoughtful, playful. Before filming a scene, the animators planned exactly which faces Jack would need. They laid them out in order like a deck of cards. Then, frame by frame, they removed one face and snapped on another. The face plates were held in place by tiny magnets hidden inside Jack's head. Even with this system, the process was delicate. The faces had to align perfectly, or Jack's features would jump around on screen. Sometimes an animator would spend an entire day on 3 seconds of footage, changing Jack's expression 12 times. The audience never notices the seams. They just see Jack thinking, wondering, dreaming. But every flicker of emotion was a separate piece of plastic, carefully painted and precisely placed. That smile wasn't painted once. It was sculpted 400 times. Number 17. Sally was the hardest character to animate. Sally, the ragdoll created by Dr. Finkelstein, gave the animators endless trouble. Her body was supposed to be made of stitched fabric, soft and floppy. But stop-motion puppets need rigid skeletons inside to hold their poses. So the team built Sally with a metal armature underneath a latex skin. They painted stitches and patches on the outside to make her look sewn together. The problem was her dress. It was made from real fabric, and fabric doesn't stay still. Every time an animator moved Sally's leg, her dress would shift and wrinkle. They couldn't control it. Between frames, the dress would settle differently, making it look like it was flickering on screen. The team tried everything: starch, spray, wire, glue. Nothing worked perfectly. In the end, they accepted the flicker as part of her charm. It made her feel more fragile, more real. Sally's hair caused problems too. It was made from thread, and it would drift in the slightest breeze. The animators had to move in slow motion around her set, holding their breath so they wouldn't disturb her hair. One sneeze could ruin a shot. What looks gentle and graceful on screen was a battle against gravity, air, and cloth. Sally wasn't just a character. She was a puzzle the team solved frame by frame. Number 16. The songs were written before the script. Danny Elfman composed the music early, even before the full story was written. He loved Burton's original poem and sketches so much that he started creating songs immediately. Elfman wrote 10 musical numbers that told Jack's journey, his boredom, his discovery of Christmas, his obsession, and his redemption. These songs became the skeleton of the movie. The screenwriter, Carolyn Thompson, used them as a guide. She built scenes around the music, letting the lyrics shape the dialogue and action. This is the opposite of how most musicals are made. Usually the script comes first, then someone adds songs. But here, the songs were the foundation. Elfman didn't just compose the music, he also sang Jack's voice. His voice is what you hear when Jack sings about being tired of Halloween and excited about Christmas. However, Jack's speaking voice was done by a different actor, Chris Sarandon. So Jack has 2 voices, one for singing and one for talking. Most audiences never notice the switch. The emotion stays consistent because both performers understood the character deeply. But it's strange to think that Jack's most passionate moments come from a composer who never appeared on screen. The movie was born from music, and the music came from pure inspiration. Number 15. The snowflakes were made from toilet paper. When Jack tries to deliver Christmas presents, snow falls gently around him. That snow looks magical and delicate on screen. But it wasn't made from fake snow or cotton or any special material. It was shredded toilet paper. The crew bought cheap, thin toilet paper and tore it into tiny pieces. Then they scattered it across the miniature sets and let it fall during filming. Between takes, they had to reset every single flake by hand. If the snow landed in the wrong spot, it would look different from the previous frame. So the animators used tweezers to move each piece back into place. Some scenes required hundreds of tiny paper bits floating in the air. The crew would toss them up gently, snap a photo, then freeze and adjust everything before the next frame. It was tedious and frustrating. The paper would stick to the puppets, cling to the sets, and drift into corners. But on camera, it looked perfect, soft, white, and weightless. Nobody watching the movie thinks about toilet paper. They see Christmas magic falling from the sky. That's the art of illusion. The simplest materials, handled with care, become wonder. What seemed cheap became priceless through patience. Number 14. Oogie Boogie was inspired by Cab Calloway. Oogie Boogie, the villain who gambles and loves bugs, moves like a jazz performer. His dance in the movie is smooth, energetic, and full of personality. That wasn't an accident. The animators studied old footage of Cab Calloway, a legendary singer and dancer from the 1930s and 40s. Calloway had a wild, rubbery style. He bent and twisted and swayed with the music. His performances were full of life and danger and charm. The team wanted Oogie Boogie to feel the same way, unpredictable, charismatic, and a little scary. So they watched Calloway's moves over and over, breaking them down frame by frame. Then they translated those dances into stop motion. It was hard because Oogie Boogie is just a sack full of bugs. He doesn't have bones or muscles. He's floppy and lumpy. But the animators made him move like a showman anyway. They gave him swagger and rhythm. Ken Page, the actor who voiced Oogie Boogie, also helped. He recorded his lines with full energy, moving his body as he sang. The animators watched his recordings and copied his gestures. So, Oogie Boogie is a combination of three artists: Cab Calloway's vintage style, Ken Page's performance, and the animators' patience. Together, they created a villain who dances with death and makes it look fun. Number 13. The movie was almost canceled. Twice? Disney didn't believe in this movie at first. When Burton pitched the idea in the early 1980s, they said no. It was too dark for kids. It wasn't a princess story or a fairy tale. It had skeletons and monsters and fear. Disney wanted safe stories, not strange ones. So Burton left the company and worked on other projects. But he never forgot Jack Skellington. Years later, when Burton became famous for Beetlejuice and Batman, Disney came back. They said maybe the movie could work after all. But even then, they were nervous. During production, executives visited the set and panicked. They saw the dark sets and creepy puppets, and worried parents would hate it. Twice they almost pulled the funding and shut everything down. Henry Selick had to fight to keep the project alive. He showed them test footage, explained the story's heart, and promised it would find an audience. Disney agreed to finish the film, but they refused to release it under the main Disney label. Instead, they used Touchstone Pictures, a side company for riskier films. They didn't want the Disney name attached in case it failed. When the movie finally came out, it didn't make huge money at first, but over the years it became a cult classic. Now Disney proudly claims it. What they almost killed became one of their most beloved treasures. Number 12. Jack's suit was stitched with real thread. Jack Skellington wears a pinstriped suit that looks sharp and elegant. That suit wasn't painted or printed. It was sewn by hand using real fabric and thread. The costume department made dozens of tiny suits for the different Jack puppets. Each suit had to fit perfectly because any wrinkle or loose thread would show up on camera. The stripes were sewn in carefully, line by line, to make sure they stayed straight. The team used needles so thin they could barely see them. They worked under magnifying glasses, stitching miniature jackets and pants for a puppet less than a foot tall. The bat bow tie Jack wears was also handmade. It's so small you could cover it with your thumb, but it has perfect details. The bat wings, the tiny knot, the way it sits against his collar. Every piece of Jack's outfit was treated like real fashion. The animators had to be careful not to tear the fabric when they moved him. One rough adjustment could rip a seam and ruin the suit. If that happened, they had to stop filming, remove the suit, repair it, and start over. Clothing in stop motion is always tricky, but Jack's suit had to look elegant and timeless. What seems simple on screen was high fashion at a microscopic scale. Number 11. The movie has over 109,000 frames. The final film runs about 76 minutes. Every second contains 24 individual frames. That means the entire movie is made up of more than 109,000 separate photographs. Each photograph required the animators to move the puppets slightly, adjust the sets, and check the lighting. If you tried to watch the movie one frame at a time, it would take you days, and every single frame had to be perfect. If an animator made a mistake, moved a puppet too far, left a tool in the shot, or bumped the camera, they had to start that section over. There was no undo button. No computer could fix it. Everything was physical, real, and permanent. The pressure was immense. Some animators worked for weeks on a single scene, knowing one error could erase all their progress. They developed rituals to stay focused. Some listened to music, others worked in total silence. They became experts at moving in tiny, controlled increments. A finger shifts 1 millimeter, a head tilts 2 degrees, an eye blinks in 3 frames. What looks smooth and natural